Does a game engine really decide how good a game is, or does the developer matter more? To find out, I hired 3 Fiverr developers to make the same game. One in Unity, one in Unreal, and one in Godot. I'll rank them on graphics, polish, creativity, and even communication. And by the end, we'll finally know, is it the engine or the developer that makes the biggest difference? And thank you to Fiverr for sponsoring this video. To start, I needed a game idea that was unique, something to avoid asset flips, but also realistic for my $1,000 budget, or around $300 per developer. And since giant monsters destroying cities are always epic, I chose the theme, Defend the City from a Kaiju Attack. First up, I needed someone for Godot, so I went on Fiverr, where you can hire freelancers for anything really, from 3D modeling to building full games, and you can filter by engine and seller level to find experienced devs. That's where I found Lucas. I really liked the personality his games had on his profile, and he had strong reviews and plenty of experience. So I sent him a custom order request with my budget and game description, and he quickly agreed to take on the challenge with an offer for $260. After I sent him some monster assets, he got to work, and his approach was, definitely unexpected. Next up was Unity. With so many Unity developers on Fiverr, it was much easier to stay within the budget. I found Huzaifa, who specializes in complete Unity games. He quoted me for $250 with a timeline of about a month. So I sent him some assets I had and was super excited to see what he would come up with. While Huzaifa was getting started, it was time to find our Unreal developer. A lot of people think Unreal games are just bloated, laggy messes, but I wanted to see if that was just a loud minority. Now, there were a lot of great options, but Vive Games stood out the most, with a wide variety of projects, great reviews, and although they were the most expensive out of the 3 at $330, I had high hopes. Unreal is powerful, and in the right hands, it can be a game changer. Now, you can find the link to all of these developers in a description, and I'll rate the final game soon, but first, let's see how each developer actually incorporated the prompt and built the game. Our Godot developer Lucas started by looking at the kaiju models I sent them. Since they're low poly and the animations don't import perfectly into Godot, Lucas realized a close-up perspective would show too many flaws, so instead they decided on a top-down camera, where the idea for a city defense game popped up. So he put together a low poly city and set up waves of monsters that would march in to destroy it. The player, aka me, would spend money earned at the end of each round to buy more aerial defenses, and the game would end by dropping a huge nuke in the city. Kind of ironic for a defense game. So that was Lucas's take on my prompt, but what about our Unity developer? Huzaifa actually made the game the closest to what I had originally imagined with my beautiful brain. Okay. Their focus was on making the city itself reactive, so as the kaiju attacked, the environment and buildings would get destroyed. On top of that, he added a main character that could shoot fire, almost like a wizard defending the city, which gave it a fun twist. And the final Unity game ended up being very unexpected, but for a complete different reason than the Godot one. But Unreal was a completely different story. Our developer, Vive Games, took a more hands-on approach. From the start, they sent me step-by-step progress updates showing me how everything was coming together. The core idea was to keep the same Defend the City theme, but with a more cinematic Unreal look. The main character this time around had a gun and had to shoot a giant rock monster that was wreaking havoc. It would spawn rocks and annihilate you if you got too close. And I suggested adding portals because it wasn't very obvious where the rocks would spawn, and he would quickly implement any and all of my suggestions. By the time it was finished, the Unreal project felt like the more cinematic version of the 3. Now let's see and rank the final results of the theme, Defend the City from a Kaiju Attack. Here's our Godot submission, taking around 15 days and costing $260. Now personally, out of the 3, this one felt the most unique. Lucas really thought outside of the box, working around the limitations of Godot and finishing really quickly. At first, I was a bit confused with how it worked. I didn't even realize the huge plane was the ultimate nuke. But once I got the hang of it, it was actually pretty fun. Now it's time to rate it. Personal opinions here, guys. Personal opinions. Graphics. I like the visual effects, and the collapsing buildings were done very smartly. And everything felt pretty cohesive, even if it didn't look like a AAA game, so I'll give it an 8 out of 10. Not bad. A creativity. This one is easily a 10 out of 10. I never would have imagined a top-down defense game for this prompt, and it was executed really well given the time and budget constraints. Polish. Now, the UI wasn't my favorite part, but overall the mechanics, the visuals, the gameplay, they all tied together really nicely. I also really enjoyed the starting cinematic, which gave the game a bit of a storyline. So 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10. Communication. While he didn't update me constantly because it was an open prompt challenge, he did send plenty of clips and gave me a clear description of his thought process after he delivered it. So a fair 7 out of 10, which in total is 33 out of 40. Which is not bad at all. Next up is Unity. This one took 38 days to deliver at $250. Right away, it has that classic Unity look. I can't explain why, but you just know when you see it. I did like how destructible the environment was, and the monster AI was surprisingly smart, switching between attacking me when I got too close and targeting the city when I backed off. The problem was, once it locked onto me, there was no escaping, because this kaiju definitely does some cardio. Now for the ratings. Graphics. The environment didn't match too well with the kaiju model, though to be fair, I didn't give them any city assets to work with, just because it felt like a lot of random things mixed in together, like the wizard, the goblin, or whatever the heck it is, and the city. I'll give it a 7 out of 10. Creativity. Making the buildings destructible was a great idea, and I really like the theming of a sci-fi wizard guy killing a kaiju. It's a little random, but it's cool. 8 out of 10. Polish. The destruction was awesome though, so 8 out of 10. Communication. Most of the updates came with the deliverables, but I did get a midway update to provide feedback, so I'll give it a 7 out of 10. So in total, it's a 30 out of 40, which also is really good. And finally, the long-awaited Unreal Engine 5 game. This one took 26 days and cost $330. So right away, this was the most feature-rich game. It had accurate locomotion, double jump, dash, weapons with reloading, AI that alternates between destroying the city and hunting you down, plus some cool sound design and visual effects. I also loved how they incorporated my suggestion to add verticality with floating platforms and double jumps. It did make the gameplay feel a little bit more dynamic. And while the monster didn't literally destroy the buildings, it was still really impressive for the budget. And best of all, no lag. Surprise. Wow. Now for the final ratings. Graphics. I would have given it a 9 if the floating platforms felt a little more integrated with the world, but otherwise everything mixed in pretty well, so 8 out of 10. Creativity. The monster design was the most unique out of the 3, but it did feel a little generic overall, so 8 out of 10. Polish. It honestly felt like a playable Steam demo, so that deserves a 10 out of 10. And communication. Vive Games constantly updated me and implemented any feedback I had super fast, so that deserves a 10 out of 10, because I think communication is very underrated when working with someone. And that leads to a total of 36 out of 40, the highest score out of the 3 games. But honestly, all 3 developers did amazing with the budget and time constraints. While each engine has their own strengths and limitations, what matters most in the end is the developer and how they take advantage of the tools. You can find the links to all 3 Fiverr developers in the description, and you can use my code SAMYAM10 at checkout for a discount if you're a first-time purchaser. And if you like this video, check out my other Fiverr challenge video, which had even more weird surprises in store.